In this video, I'll talk about my first Watch Pro Salon and dive into 3 new brands you guys should definitely be paying attention to. The goal here is to help someone new to the watch game like me decide if they would want to attend next year. This past Friday, I went to my first Watch Pro Salon event in London. Now, I only found out just before the event that I was not only invited, but I was invited as part of the press and media, something that's not open to the public until the next day. So thank you guys again so much for another opportunity you've helped me to get. I can only hope I'm giving you back value in my videos in some way. Now, with this being my second watch event, it was definitely a step up from the first. And yes, a video about my first watch event, World Time UK, is still on its way. The Watch Pro Salon was held at the Londoner Hotel in Leicester Square, and you could probably tell from the video that this place was luxurious. There were security guards in suits and ties, and waiters and waitresses passing around hors d'oeuvres, and even a bar giving out free drinks. Now, my first impression walking in was like, oh no, how am I gonna cover all this? There looked to be about 30 to 50 brands on display, and it took me about 40 minutes to an hour just to walk around once to see what brands I wanted to cover in more detail. Obviously, honorable mentions go to some of the main micro brands we all know, Baltic, Venezianico, Artelier Wen, and so on. But I also discovered some brands with absolutely insane designs that I had never seen before, and some at an affordable price. There was even a general jeweler there, which allowed me to try on an AP Royal Oak, a Patek Nautilus, and a Vacheron Overseas for the first time in my life. As a new watch collector, trying on these heavy hitters in the watch space was both overwhelming and underwhelming. Overwhelming because obviously you're holding something that costs like £80,000, but underwhelming because after years of building up anticipation in your mind, you realize that it's still just a watch that feels quite similar to others you've tried on. Before I talk about the first brand in detail, here's a sneak peek of some of the wild things I saw at the event.
So you were saying that these are planets?
Yeah, you got the sun in the middle, and after on the side you have the Earth and the Moon. The Moon moving around the Earth 1 full month, and the Earth is doing the same around the Sun for a full year.
Huh? A year? So this is an annual calendar?
Simple one. We have to do a small adjustment every 2 months.
I love that. I just love that concept.
The first brand I'd like to highlight is Apiar. This one stood out to me because of their attention to detail in all aspects of watchmaking and storytelling using watchmaking. Instead of using generic cases and print machines for artwork, they collaborated with an actual artist for this somewhat photorealistic artwork. Take a look. Apiar? APR?
Apiar. Like a apiary, you know, like a
5% APR?
We derived it from like apiary, beehive. The whole like inspiration was taking stuff from nature, like the honeycomb aspect. We're a British brand. Me and Sam, my co-founder, we started the company in 2022. Took about a year to do the development, set up our British supply chain, and then we brought our first watch, the Invernier, in June this year. And then for Watch Pro, we've been doing a limited edition release in collaboration with the Dial artist that we launched today. We're a technology-driven brand. Our focus is taking stuff that you see in the engineering industry and like automotive, biomedical, and aerospace applications, but then bringing that into watchmaking. So think of things that you see SpaceX doing, Bugatti doing with their 3D printed brake calipers, stuff that goes into your grandma's hip replacement. Our focus is taking that technology, and one in particular being additive manufacturing. It's a layer by layer process where if you look at like a desktop base or something that you could have in a university or at home, it's like a polymer process like plastic. You do like melting plastic and you do a small layer and you move that up in the Z axis and then over.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know what you're talking about now.
So that's like 3D printing.
Yeah.
The reason why we call it additive manufacturing because it's industrial. That's what the industry term is for it.
Okay.
And that's normally associated with like high-end applications. So for us, we use a process called laser powder bed fusion. So the way that it starts is we start with titanium powder like this, and then use very high-powered lasers to melt that over thousands of layers into a near net shape like this. So this is what it comes off the build plate. You could probably turn that into a watch, but it wouldn't look very aesthetically pleasing. We then put that into a 5-axis CNC machine, and we then machine out our cases. So this was our first watch that we released called the Invernier. And the reason why we called it that was it was a discovery of additive manufacturing in watchmaking. So our first watch that we released was highly configurable. So people could customize their watch as they wanted. on our 3D configurator. So if they wanted a different bezel, a different dial, a different guilloche on the internals, or even a different case structure, we could do that for them. We then bespoke make them in the UK, and we're shipping those out in the next 2 weeks. So after doing all of that research, building a supply chain in the UK, we wanted to bring out something new. And this is where Chris came in. Chris is a well-known dial customizer and artist, does some incredible work. And when he started talking to us about doing a collaboration, we wanted to almost design something from scratch, but still use the technology and the case structure that we've developed in the last year. So this is where the limited edition release came today, which is called the ERB. And as a brand, technology driven, thinking about science, engineering, we wanted to design a watch that was based on theoretical physics. And this watch is designed based off of the Einstein-Rosen bridge or the wormhole. So if you're thinking time travel, going through hyperspeed in like Star Wars or Star Trek, this watch is based off of that. So when we started working with Chris, we wanted to have a story behind the whole watch. And our thought was, what if it was an astronaut stuck out in space trying to travel through a wormhole? What would their journey be going through the watch? So it started off as the astronaut getting sucked into the center of a concave dial, through that center, and that's because of additive. We could completely hollow out this titanium case and have cavities that Chris can hand fill with enamel paint. You can see that structure going all the way through to the back, where you then have the astronaut kind of rotating on that that rotor, almost going through that wormhole. So every aspect of this watch was designed to be able to tell that story. See that loom on the dial? So it starts off like that, and then Chris goes through the process to hand paint each aspect of that astronaut. So you can see there that detail that he's done. There you go.
Here's the artist.
This is our limited edition release that we've done, and we're really excited about what this means for Apiar and what we're going to do in the future.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This brand is slightly out of my budget for now, at around 1.5 to 2K per watch. But in this rare instance, I will say that I don't think they're overpriced at all. Before we get into the second brand, I'd like to talk about the main benefit I see for these kind of events. For quite a few brands, you could go and meet the CEO or owner, and in other cases, you might be met with a salesperson or a brand rep. Events like these are fantastic because you get to enjoy one of the most important aspects of building a watch collection, trying them on in person. I'm a huge advocate for the idea that purchasing a watch should involve trying it on in person at some point in the process, even for budget watches. One of the biggest things watch brands do to increase their sales is invest heavily in product photography, something I have a background in. I can tell you from experience that a lot goes into making a watch look way better in a photo than it might look in person. This is why events like these are so valuable. You can ask specific questions that you may not have answers to on their website, such as details about the brand's origin or future releases you're particularly interested in. Personally, I'm building my own watch brand at the moment, video coming soon, and these events reassure me that all of us have what it takes to build a watch brand if we want to. You just have to start. I can say from first-hand experience that at least one of these brand owners is building his watch company to massive heights all alongside his regular day job. And speaking of watch brands, the third one I'll discuss later on in the video was the most interesting to me because some brands at this event were charging 3 to 5K plus for watches I found extremely underwhelming and derivative, while others were very innovative and creative, but only charging a few £100s for pieces that I would have expected to cost 30,000 or more. I guess I still have a lot to learn. With that being said, let's head into the second brand. This second brand caught my eye simply because of the dials. As many of you know, I've come into watches from a fashion perspective. I'm not so much a lover of horology itself at the moment. This means that the watches that catch my eye and keep my interest tend to have unique designs or links to fashion. Before watches, I was somewhat of a jewelry collector, so I'm fond of stones like tiger's eye and other colorful stones. Take a look. So, Dennison, yes. I'm very intrigued by your watches here. So your colleague said that you'd started this year, but that says established in 1874.
Exactly.
Tell me more.
So we're actually 1 week old. So it's a rebirth of a very old English brand called Dennison. And yes, it was established in 1874 in Birmingham in the UK. And it then became the biggest watch case makers. So at the time we were doing, the cases for Rolex, Zenith, Smith, Omega, Tudor, Longines, I mean, all the big brands. And that's why we have, you know, our tagline is the name behind the names. At the end of the 1960s, the brand stopped working. A lot of those, you know, Rolex and all the big brands took in-house the case making, and then the brand just stopped. So 10 years ago, one of my associates bought back Dennison, and then, you know, we didn't do a lot of things for a few years, and then we said, let's make it a comeback. So yeah, there's a lot of history behind this brand, a lot of heritage, and the inspiration on the first collection. The first collection is called ALD, Aaron Lofkin Dennison. So the founder of Dennison. And we work with a Swiss watch designer called Emmanuel Gate. He accepted to work with us. We kind of let him do what he wants. He, you know, took inspiration from 1960s, Piaget, Patek, Vacheron, and we came out with this new collection. We wanted to focus on the case because Dennison was a case maker.
The cases are what stood out to me. And then the second thing is those beautiful dials.
At a very affordable price point.
Yes.
So we're really looking for, you know, affordable luxury. You get a beautiful watch. All the stone dials are 540 quid, so British pounds. So you get a very nice watch, very, you know, vintage and design, very elegant, dressy watch. Yeah, for 540. And all the, you know, stone dials have a different, because it's natural stone, there are different patterns. They're all unique.
Yeah.
Very new brand, 1 week old. And hopefully, yeah, you'll see a second collection coming and a third one next year.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Now, since filming this video, I've found the watch that I believe this Dennison watch draws a lot of inspiration from. Although I usually make a point of disliking brands that copy other designs, taking a price point from 4,000 secondhand to around 500 new is something I cannot really argue with, especially when they go through the effort of sourcing real stones that make each watch unique. The main difference between this watch and the Piaget is that the Piaget has a slightly different case shape and it has a mechanical movement, whereas the Dennison has a quartz movement. For the first time ever, I feel like I am buying into the brand's history and their future. If they have such a rich design history, I only expect great things to come from them in the future. I'm not their biggest fan yet, as I've only seen their stuff once, but I do have high hopes. Another quick tangent before we get into the final brand, I wanted to touch on my place in the watch industry. While my experience at watch events and on YouTube has been 99.99999% positive, as opposed to my initial welcome on TikTok, which was overwhelmingly negative, being able to speak to other watch enthusiasts in person has solidified my resolve to stay in the watch community. I'm vocal and honest with all of my opinions, and while that's not always welcome, a lot of feedback I've received from people at these events and from brand owners is that my opinion is welcome and needed. At the moment, the watch industry feels quite closed and often favors luxury brands like Rolex and Omega, for example, or brands with long history and high price tags. I see a lot of negativity towards watches that don't come from Geneva or other approved countries, and unique designs are often pushed aside and labeled as AliExpress watches. I'm happy to be on the side of the community that helps promote a diverse set of brands and shows people that it's okay to be different and to like what you like, even if nobody else does. And now for arguably the most interesting brand. If you follow my TikTok, you'll know I absolutely detest Richard Mille. Not so much because of the pricing, but because of their designs. They go against everything I enjoy in a watch. They're not thin, they're not classy, they're not affordable, the list goes on. At the event, I came across a big stall that looked futuristic and techie. From afar, I was convinced it was a Richard Mille booth. As I approached it, I realized it wasn't. I asked the representative straight up, "These obviously look like RM ripoffs. What's going on here?" He explained to me that the brand's goal is to make these designs more affordable. And I thought, yeah, all ripoff brands say that. But just as I was about to walk off, he caught my attention when he mentioned the materials that they use. We're often told in the watch space that a lot of the value that comes from luxury watches is from their materials. So when he told me that some of these watches were made with ceramic and carbon fiber just like RM, I was shocked. At a £300 to £500 price point, I expected plastic watches, assuming most of the cost would go towards other things like the movement and 3D printing or whatever. But to see that they don't shortchange people on materials was amazing. Tsar Bomba. Could you tell me a little bit about these very interesting pieces here and the brand itself?
Absolutely. So the brand is based in Hong Kong and we're entering the UK to be a disruptor. I think there's lots of talk at the moment about high-end watches and the price pointing. So what we've done is a dedicated journey on bringing affordable luxury to the UK market. So if you look predominantly at our entry-level range, that watch will retail at £220.
Wow.
However, if you then look at the materials, it's a Japanese movement, sapphire glass, fluoro rubber, so it's a silicon strap on it. Technically, it's a great watch. That entry-level watch is a quartz one at 220, and then if we then continue the range up to automatics with carbon fiber, that range starts at 400 at retail. If we then move the brand forward, this is our DNA. So this range here is what we call our atomic range. This has a world patent on it, and it's a fully interchangeable watch. So the bezel and the strap is all interchangeable. The crown will come out as well. So basically you can interchange, you can put different colorations on it. And that's the atomic range. And that can be made up of a carbon fiber or a ceramic bezel. We look at the new designs, which we're actually just promoting at the show today. It's our dark matter range, which actually carries not a Japanese movement, but a Swiss movement. So the price point here starts to rise. If you look at an entry level on the dark matter, you're looking at about £1,200. But what you actually get is a fully interchangeable bezel, crown, and 2 straps. We take that range up further. The materials used in that are titanium and meteorite. And then right top of the range there, we have a model which is significant in terms of it's 50 only worldwide and made predominantly for Rafael Martinez, who is the Mexican football coach. We've taken pre-orders on that watch at £5,000. So that's developing the brand even further.
I know that RM use their own unique blend of carbon fiber and ceramic, but come on. Another thing that has saved the brand for me is that they're developing their own proprietary designs, as you can see here. While I don't think I'd buy any of their current designs, their new original designs are closer to what I'd be interested in. So stay tuned. You might see their brand on my channel at some point in the future. This goes back to what I was saying about brands that grossly overcharge consumers. I'm aware of RM charging $2 million plus for some of their watches, but now learning that the cost to build such watches could be as low as a few £1,000s. Meanwhile, other brands are barely making a 30% profit margin on amazing, original, unique ideas. In summary, this event was awesome. I got to meet some cool people, see some amazing watches, and have my mind open to new possibilities and opportunities. From a watch event, what more could you ask for? 99% of the brand owners were really nice to talk to and answered all of my questions, which is something that browsing online just cannot match for me. More than anything, I took away from this event that I do have what it takes to keep creating content, learn more about watchmaking, and maybe even start my own brand someday. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please press the like button. If you loved the video, tell me why in the comments. And if you hated the video, tell me why in the comments. Have a good day.